Is Jeff Blashill the next head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks? Could it happen by the end of the show? Probably not. But let's find out on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Hope you're having a wonderful and cool Friday on this scorching hot Chicago day. Summer's not officially here, but summer is here today.
Feels like a nice summer
It has
day.
arrived. Thanks for being here, everybody. We appreciate it. As always, do us a favor and hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, we thank you. We love you. Follow, subscribe, whatever your favorite app calls for. And if you could take 30 seconds to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we would greatly appreciate it. We've got some pretty big news today. Lots of smoke around Jeff Blashill as the next head coach of
so smoky in here.
the Chicago Blackhawks. It is quite smoky. In a few moments, we're going to welcome Ryan Hana from the Winged Wheel podcast to get a little scouting report on him. But we heard yesterday from Frank Saravalli. We heard this morning from Pierre LeBrun. John Buchagros is doing his always correct, ominous tweets.
Put his ominous, yeah.
Yes.
13 hammer emojis of saying Jeff Blashill is going to be the head coach
Yes.
of the Blackhawks. Very ominous.
I woke up to a text from a really plugged-in friend saying 95%. Jeff Blashill is going to be the guy, so I've been basically working all morning to get as much info as we can.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's welcome in Ryan Hana from the Winged Wheel podcast and get some insight on what worked, what didn't, and what Hawks fans can expect if Jeff Blashill is indeed the hire. Ryan, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's not the guest spot I was anticipating this summer, but it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, don't adjust your TV dials. This is a Blackhawks and Red Wings podcast.
It's a collab.
Crossover. How things have changed. Yeah, Ryan, first off with Jeff Blashill, you know, I think a lot of people look at his tenure in Detroit and call it a failure. But with the context of he kind of took over a team that was right about to kind of blow things up, and that may have, you know, worked against his favor. Generally speaking, first off, and then we can kind of slim it down. His tenure in Detroit, how would you characterize it? What went right? What went wrong?
Yeah, like I think you can't start with anything other than saying, fair or not, it was a failure. But the kicker is everything with the Red Wings was a failure in that time. Absolutely everything, even the things that were out of their control, the draft lottery, all of it was a failure. And it was a long time coming because of the way the team mortgaged futures for as long as possible to keep that playoff streak going. And that was a directive from ownership. It wasn't, you know, all Ken Holland, but Ken Holland as well. You know, he made decisions that was for the now and not for necessarily the future of the Red Wings. We started this show, the Winged Wheel podcast, in 2015. And I remember when we started the show, one of the first things we talked about was, hey, there's a cliff coming, and the Red Wings are barreling towards it. And to give you an idea of where Red Wings fans were at, the backlash we got was insane. And because you were just so used to winning. And so with that same kind of sentiment, you look at what Blashill was able to accomplish or the lack of accomplishments in his time in Detroit, and he received a lot of heat. He received heat from us. He received heat from the fan base across the league. But then you look at what he had to work with, and there's not a coach in the world. Scotty Bowman on his best day would not have coached, you know, a team that was putting Franz Nielsen and Luke Glendening and other guys like that on the top line. Like, there are some really tough lineup cards if you go back and look for the Red Wings in that period. And I mean, you have your qualms with Jeff Blashill at the time. You look back at it, you're like, maybe I was too harsh, but not. Still, some of it applies. It's complicated, but it's a lot of muck to look through that wasn't Jeff Blashill's fault.
Well, there's two things that we're primarily focused on here, and one, of course, is the development of these young players. The Hawks have Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, Kevin Korchinski, Artem Levshinov, etc. How does Blashill do at developing young players? And the other question I have is, what is his personality type? Is he a hard ass? Is he a player's coach? How would you characterize his demeanor behind the bench?
When Jeff Blashill came in as coach, there was a lot of talk of like, oh, this is a Mike Babcock disciple. Maybe, yeah, but not so much in that Mike Babcock is who he is, which is unique to put it gently. I don't think you're looking at that. I have a hard time characterizing Jeff Blashill as like explicitly a player's coach or explicitly a hard ass. He's very kind of a prototypical NHL coach. Extremely well liked guy across the hockey circles. I can tell you that. Has had success. I mean, I know this is going to sound funny, but has had success everywhere he went before Detroit. There's a coaching tree linked to him in terms of people who have then gone on and had success various opportunities in Michigan. Um, he's you asked the question about young players, and you might be fooled in thinking, okay, that Jeff Blashill did nothing to accelerate the young players that the Red Wings had back in the day when he was the head coach, but those players weren't really much to speak of. And then you look at the young players that came in when he could actually trust them, and Jeff Blashill didn't hesitate to trust those players, and that's what was important when you saw that right at the end of his tenure. And you look at trusting Mo Seider, you look at trusting Lucas Raymond right off the hop, and they got the opportunities and they got off to the hot start that they did, and he was part of that. So again, much like I said with the success he had in Detroit or the lack thereof, it's a mixed bag and there's a lot of muck to look through. The same thing goes with, you know, how is he actually with a coach, especially with those young players? Chicago's got a ton of talent. Like that's the difference in this situation. Detroit doesn't have a Connor Bedard. They never had a Levshinov coming in. They never had for the majority of Blashill's tenure. So he has a lot more to work with, and there are glimpses in there of when there is talent, he won't hesitate to lean on them, especially if he doesn't have a lot of other choice, which no offense, but Chicago doesn't.
One of the things that I think, we've come to know about him in the short time that we've really kind of crammed on studying up on, his system and his philosophy and stuff is that he's a more defensive minded guy. And the Blackhawks are coming off of Luke Richardson, who had more of that mentality of being defensive minded and trying to create offense through stopping defense on the defensive side. How did that play out in Detroit? I know he's been kind of in charge of the defensive side of things for the Lightning since he's been an assistant there. What did his system do? How did it translate? And I guess how could that maybe be expected to work with what Chicago is working with, which is a young defensive core and some forwards who are a little bit more maybe offense first?
To give an optimistic perspective here, I think you would almost be forced to lean on the offense that Chicago would bring. Like you said, the young talents, the Bedards, the Nazars, you can't just ignore that. And with a young defensive core, you're going to want a guy who can instill the kind of solid foundational defensive values that they need. It's not sexy, it's not fun, and especially when you're a bad team that's defense first and then you suck anyways, you're like, well, what was the point? But in terms of building a team that's going to win year over year over year, and when you have that talent, you do need to kind of instill that foundational defensive ability, the systems. It's really difficult to talk about concrete systems in Detroit because it wasn't just their forwards that I talked about earlier that were poor. The defense, my God, if anything went to hell, it was the defense, and it hasn't recovered since. Cronwall was the last vestige of an era where Detroit excelled at defense, and even up until last year, Mo Seider had almost no help. So he's a defensive coach, yeah. And it's going to be a new territory to see how he does with defensive talent that Detroit didn't necessarily have to compare as an analog to Chicago. It's also his second go around. He also was in Tampa for the last little while where he's working the defense, but he's seeing an offensive team that can control the ice, and especially not in a way where it's like always burners. Like you look at Kucherov, he's not a burner, but he controls the game. So you have to imagine he can glean something from there and then say, okay, here's Connor Bedard, who's not necessarily a burner himself, but how do I not stifle his offense and allow him to thrive? So that's the kind of MO you're looking for from Blashill in this second go around. I also am a big believer in that when coaches get fired after the first time, if they make it back, they do tend to sometimes, really show more of their potential. They're not too much different than players.
So I heard you mention on the pod I listened to this morning, I listened to your reaction pod after the Blashill he wasn't fired. They just didn't renew the contract. They moved on. And one of the things you talked about was early in that 2021-22 season, the team was playing very conservative and keeping games close. And then for whatever reason, they opened things up, tried to be a little more offensive, maybe a little more creative. And then that's when things really went downhill. I saw it written that there were 9 games where the Red Wings gave up 7+ goals, including an 11-2 loss in Pittsburgh. Why did they change from that conservative style? And is that change the reason you think things got so bad towards the end?
Yeah, I appreciate beautiful sunny Friday over here. You're trying to ruin it real quick. Past trauma. They weren't winning games, right? Like you don't have the talent to work with, so you go full bore on defense and you're pulling the forwards back and you're basically fighting for your life in your own zone to keep things close, but then you're not scoring goals. You can try to keep things close as long as you can, but if you're not scoring goals, you're not going to win in the NHL, and that was the difference. You also have to think like he was coaching for his job by that point. And when coaches are coaching for their jobs as opposed to coaches who are coaching in a secure position with multi-year contracts or the vote of confidence from their GM, you act differently. And so I'm not going to say Jeff Blashill was desperate, but he had to try to find a way to win games. But to be good on defense, you had to essentially sacrifice the offense, and to be good on offense, you had to sacrifice the defense. Detroit had almost nothing to work with. You had Larkin, Raymond, Seider, and whatever veteran signing that year happened to work and the 10 others that didn't. So it was an impossible situation for Blashill to win in. There were qualms that I had. I think at points there were too many quick changes in terms of the lines. We had a joke, the Blashill blender in terms of the lineup. Was that a symptom of just having a terrible team and nothing stuck? Maybe. I would say that's at least somewhat the case. The third period shell or the third period collapse happened often, but that also happened often under Derek Lalonde, and we saw it come back when it burned Detroit's potential playoff spot with Todd McLellan. So that's more of a function of just being an incomplete roster and a bad team in my mind. But there is something to be said of how do you coach your way out of it. And Chicago is not the best team in the league, but there's going to be enough talent there next year and the year after and the year after where he's going to have enough to work with to, I think, answer the questions. I'm not going to make a prediction, but he'll be able to answer the questions in terms of, was this the team in Detroit or was it the coach? And if it was the coach, has he improved?
Blowing leads, line blenders. That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
we've been through that.
I'm not negative about this. I know that it's not. I think for a lot of Hawks fans, they wanted to be blown away, and I think there were 2 possibilities there: David Carl and Mike Sullivan. And Mike Sullivan went to the Rangers. David Carl went back to college. So it was going to be a kind of a meh, let's wait and see kind of a hire here. And I'm not hearing anything about Jeff Blashill that scares me off. I think he is very much a middle of the pack sort of a thing. But Ryan, I think your main message, and I don't want to speak for you, is that yes, things didn't go well in Detroit, but it was such a bad situation that really no one could have succeeded. So it's almost impossible to judge his time there.
Yeah, you won't find a shortage of Red Wings fans who would have said or might still say, bad things about Blashill's time as head coach. Again, on our show, we didn't mince words by the end of it to say, like, we think this team needs a change. But the coaching carousel in the NHL. What are we at? Average is under 2 seasons per coach right now, I think, based on the recent firings. So
1.9 now with all the firings they've done.
Yeah. So, like, it's just the nature of it. There's nothing about this guy that's a grand slam home run. But even if David Carl came in, he would be a first-time head coach in the NHL. It's a meat grinder, and so the optimistic view, which we're 2 basement teams talking here. You have to look at Jeff Blashill. Yes, he did poorly in Detroit, but then he went and coached under John Cooper for multiple seasons, who a lot of people would have odds on the best or one of the best alongside Paul Maurice and others head coaches in the NHL. He has his history of failure. He has his experience in terms of he's no longer a first-time NHL head coach. And then he brought all that to John Cooper, a successful team in Tampa Bay who plays Stanley Cup winning hockey. He has enough to work on. So should you be inspired? It depends on the person. I'm not going to tell you how to think. Should you be scared? I don't think any more than any other candidate, quite honestly. Middle of the pack is the right way to approach it. And like when the meat grinder is under 2 seasons long on average, you have to take you're basically evaluating Kyle Davidson here in my mind more than Jeff Blashill.
Yeah, it's a good point. Ryan, before we let you go, we appreciate your time. Is Patrick Kane coming back to Detroit?
Yeah, I think he is. He is.
He just sold his mansion here in Chicago for a significant loss.
Yeah, he lost money on it. Yeah.
So
he's hurting. I imagine he's hurting.
Yeah, poor guy.
It's a tough one to stomach for him.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan, thanks so much for your time, man. We appreciate the insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right,
thanks,
that is Brian Hana from the Winged Wheel podcast. Honestly, if you're looking for any Red Wings information, I don't know why you would be. But if you are.
If you're here, you're probably not. But
yeah,
any other people.
But I'm telling you, that was my
this,
first thought was go listen to their podcast from when Blashill was not retained. And I learned a ton listening to it. And great interview. Really appreciate Ryan's time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to hit the break zone for the first time. Do us a favor. Hit that like button. We are very close to 100 likes, so help us get there. And we'll be back in 2 minutes to count the likes and see how close we are.
Patrick Kane could have used the Rate app
to
help him in the home process, because we all know it can be difficult and stressful if you've ever tried to buy a home or get a loan or just deal with any kind of money stuff in general. That's why we want to tell you about the Rate app, a serious game changer that can help you get pre-approved for a mortgage in minutes without the need to jump through a million hoops. And if you're thinking about a home equity loan or a personal loan, you can secure one in under 15 days. As someone who's gone through the home buying and home selling process, it is stressful. It is a headache. I wish I would have known about and used the Rate app when I went through it. What's great about the Rate app is that it could also help you find the best homeowners and auto insurance based on what you actually need if you're also in that market. The whole thing is powered by AI, so it is smart and helps you save time and money. And what's an unexpected bonus about the Rate app is that while the whole process is super stressful, normally is, the Rate app can help you with that stress with over 800 free wellness videos that help you with things like meditation, breathing exercises, stretching, basic tools to help you feel better physically and mentally. It's the one app that helps you in both your wallet and your well-being. Download it today, the Rate app, to get started and handle all of the stresses of those processes.
And just like your favorite hockey squadron needs a home ice advantage, you need a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. We've all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, then somehow haul all these materials home yourself. Then you got to find an installer, and you're coordinating everything yourself, and you're not sure if you even got the right stuff. Those big box stores might have a flooring department, but the person helping you there was probably doing plungers the day before. That's not what you want. You want pros, and that's why Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. Convenient for you, not for them. They got to put the whole building on the back of one of those wide load trucks.
They move the whole showroom.
Yeah, they put the cones outside so everyone sees the truck. Very safe. No, you pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. See how it looks with your furniture in your house. With Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day because you've made your choice. You don't want to wait. Get these old floors out of my house. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners will receive a $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. Yes, that's right. $350 off with code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details. Katie, I know we have some super chats. Let's get to those. And I have been doing a lot of work on Jeff Blashill this morning. I've got quotes that will make you feel better.
They'll make you feel.
They'll make you feel.
Make you feel things.
Exactly. All right, Ndun 22.6 for $5 says, why are the Sharks viewed so much better than the Hawks? It's really frustrating.
They have a better social media team. That's why.
It's narrative driven. It is narrative driven.
I'm joking.
I love the
no
Hawks social
disrespect
media
to
team.
the Hawks social media team. No, it's outside perception. How many times did we see, Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini besties videos and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And there was just pain and misery on Connor Bedard's face, allegedly, because he was
Upset in a penalty box?
in Chicago. Yeah.
No one's ever upset in a penalty box.
It's the outside narrative.
Yep. They also don't have the Sharks getting their asses whooped on the Winter Classic. And they're not on national TV as much, so their losses aren't as illustrated.
They're also on the West Coast. Most people are asleep when the Sharks are playing.
There's not
hockey.
a lot to it. And the Celebrini push is valid and legitimate and warranted, just as the Connor Bedard push has been towards the positive the last 2 years.
And people want to hate the Blackhawks.
Yes.
Most people don't think twice about the Sharks, or they like them.
Right. That's pretty accurate. I like that. History Racer says every $5 super chat makes Blashill a better coach. Jokes aside, at least it's a retread that makes sense for at least. Oh yeah, he must have copied and pasted.
Makes sense.
At least
for
it's a
us.
retread that makes sense
At
for
least.
us. Yes,
It's a retread that makes sense.
And then $20 from Lebowski 5. Holy moly! Great get. What stuck out to me most was Keith talking about the arrival of Taves and Kane. Them coming in was a whole different element of elite level talent, skill level, and competitiveness. That's what the Hawks need. In number
They're talking about yesterday's show.
That's yesterday's show, but we appreciate the super chat. We had Duncan Keith on yesterday.
If you missed it.
Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
DJ Schnell with $5 as well. Look for another comment from them. Sometimes super chats will come in.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it, but
Yeah.
there's nothing yet.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks, DJ, either way.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it. All right, here's some things to make you feel better. There's people I really trust in hockey. One of them is Chris Peters of Flow Hockey.
Yes.
I asked his opinion on Jeff Blashill. Chris said, quote, I think he's an extremely smart coach, a proven track record of players improving under him, super detailed and prepared. The question is going to be if he is a guy that gets you to the next step, but may not put you over the top. He didn't get that chance in Detroit. That is fair. That is valid. He also added, I think it's going to be good to have a guy with NHL experience as a head coach and someone who is pretty driven. I think that's him. Okay, there's Chris Peters. John Buchagros, when asked if this would be a good hire for the Blackhawks, John Buchagros says yes. Jeff Blashill has excellent energy, command, and experience. Got the Red Wings job at the worst time. Everywhere else he's coached, he's improved the environment, won a championship in the USHL and AHL. He's smart, self-aware, and runs a good practice. This is a sweet spot hire for all. Pretty good.
Okay.
Talk to a very level-headed, lifelong Red Wings fan. This is what they said. A Babcock clone in terms of coaching, that sort of stuff, like strategies.
I hope. Yeah.
Totally fine, not amazing, and never bad. So I think that's where we're at. I think, and we knew that we knew that this was going to be the kind of hire the Blackhawks were going to make. Maybe you preferred and for the record, the hire is not made yet, even though it feels like it is certainly headed that way. Maybe you wanted Jay Woodcroft instead. Fine. Maybe it was whoever else you had your eye on. Fine. To me, when I got this news, and as I've been digging in on it, I'm kind of like, okay, fine. There's not like there's this obvious, you gotta have them kind of coaching candidate out there that I'm going to be furious they didn't get. I don't know who that guy is that would have, at this point, in the context of what's actually available.
Yeah.
I don't know what getting upset about it, why you get upset about it.
I'm not furious that should this be the hire that they're missing out on a guy. I'm just not moved by it whatsoever. It's putting mayonnaise on untoasted white bread.
Oh, mayonnaise is terrible. So,
but the analogy is lands, I think, in my head.
Sure.
It does nothing to move the needle. And I think, for Kyle Davidson and for this organization, I figured having an opportunity to get somebody that maybe didn't fit that retread, quote unquote, profile would have been a better option. Now, he's had multiple years coaching in the NHL.
Yep.
That more than Luke Richardson had, more than Anders Sorensen has ever had. Comes from the coaching tree of Mike Babcock, also with John Cooper.
Yep.
Two successful coaches that on the ice had a lot of success, a lot of reasons to feel like learning from those guys is a positive. It just, to me, from my perspective, it just feels like in 2 years we will be back here looking for another head coach.
That might be the case.
And hopefully, if that is the scenario that we might be walking into, hopefully it's because the team is improving marginally, and we see, you know what, we need the guy. And I'm not convinced. I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. I'm not convinced Blashill is the guy that is going to get this team to that next level. And we talked about, the head coaching hire. You'd love it to be someone who can get this team through the next phase and the next phase after that, which is get out of the rebuild, get the bell curve going upwards, and then also be a coach that can handle the team moving into contention. And sure, Blashill never got the opportunity to do that in Detroit. I just don't feel like there's enough there that I've been convinced of yet. And again, the hire's not even official yet. My initial reaction is I don't feel like this is the guy that's fits that bill. This feels like a transition.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what this is. And I think we've got to be real about this. And what Kyle Davidson said at the end of the season as it pertains to free agents and trades and those sort of things is you can't just create these things out of whole cloth. They can't clone the next John Cooper and then force him to work for them. He has to choose. Kyle Davidson has to choose from what is available right now. And as we've discussed myriad times, when Carl went back to college, Sullivan chose the Rangers, who are more competitive and ready than the Hawks. And I don't think a guy like Mike Sullivan has any interest in a rebuild right now.
No.
He's one of the top coaches in hockey. Why would he do a rebuild right now? It makes no sense for him. So now that those two dream scenarios are out of the picture for now, then you have to bring in a guy who's going to bridge the gap, develop your players, get the organization headed the right direction in terms of culture, in terms of strategy. And I think, you were stumping for a guy like Jeff Halpern, who one of the reasons you really liked him was he's worked under John Cooper. Well, the same thing can be said for Jeff Blashill, but he also has 7 years of NHL head coaching experience. And when you look at what he did in Detroit, and as Ryan said on the last segment, had nothing to work with. A .447 win percentage, 204, 261, and 72 was his record. Winning percentage for Luke Richardson was .339. Winning percentage for Anders Sorensen, .384. So, I mean, Jeff Blashill with I would argue, worse roster in Detroit than what the Hawks have now was almost 10% better than Luke Richardson in winning percentage. So, am I excited if this is the hire? No, but it makes perfect sense in the context of what's available. And that's the only world we can live in. And I can see how people had high hopes and people are frustrated, but I challenge you, and I have challenged people online, like, okay, I see you're pissed about this and I see you don't want this. What's the alternative that is a proven better hire than this? And I've yet to get that answer from anybody.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at what's available and where you land, like, sure, it's kind of, it's like taking what you kind of know rather than the unknown. I would have rather have gone with somebody that had an opportunity to maybe build up their NHL resume. I don't know. I just feel like it just feels like it's a transitional hire. We'll see what happens. It just doesn't feel like the guy that you pin your hopes on. And Kyle Davidson is
I agree,
is
but
doing
who
that.
is?
I would have rather have gone with someone that was getting their first opportunity, because to me this feels like it's somebody that's saying, well, I wanted to get back into head coaching, so I'll take the Chicago job. I don't know. Maybe Jeff Blashill is so enthralled with what the Blackhawks are doing that he called Kyle Davidson and said, I want to be your coach. Who knows if that's the process that it's gone down. But he's also reportedly interviewed with Seattle. I just think there could have been somebody who would have had an opportunity to be a first-time guy, put your stamp all over the Blackhawks. To me, that would have felt more optimistic. This doesn't give me much optimism.
Okay, we're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break zone. Hit that like button. We'll talk to you in 1 minute and 59 seconds.
I need something to brighten my day up, so I'm going to hit up the Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. They have everything you need to elevate your summer. It's your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has an expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary, with locations in the city like Wrigleyville and River North, all the way out to the suburbs like in South Beloit and Champaign, and even more. And if you're starting out your cannabis journey, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands that you know and love, like the Good News and Mindy's. So if you're a pro, they've got you covered with over 100 strands on the menu. And if you're new, their experts can help you through that process. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off of your first 3 online purchases when you use the code CHGO. That's HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions do apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for those 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders.
And whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet 5, win or lose. So sign up. Use the code CHGO365, deposit $10, and place a bet for 5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. And with the Bet365 NHL early payout offer, you're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. So download the app, use that code CHGO365 when you sign up. When you do, you'll get $150 in bonus bets when you bet 5, win or lose. Again, use that code CHGO365, deposit $10, place a bet for 5 to get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Those bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in-app only. So before we hit the break zone, Mario was talking about wanting a new coach, someone that can put their stamp on the organization. And I get that, and I think that's a big part of why everybody was very excited about David Carl. I feel, though, that Carl was kind of the exception there, because one thing we heard about Richardson and to a lesser extent Sorensen, you've got to have the full respect of this team. And if a new head coach is coming in and not only learning how to be the guy for the players on the ice, managing personalities, time on ice, all the responsibilities that fall to a head coach, they're also learning how to do all the off-ice head coach stuff,
right.
Media, meals, like everything you've got to do as a head coach that they never had to do before. They're also learning that. So I think if the hire is Blashill or someone like Blashill, you've got a guy who's already been through it. He's got 7 years of knowing how to run the day-to-day as a head coach. So he's going to come into Chicago again if he's the hire. We just put like asterisk if he's the hire on the bottom of the screen, Katie, just so I don't have to keep saying it. He's already got that. That part of it's already done. He knows how to handle it. He's probably taken notes on, hey, next time I'm a head coach, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. So there's no learning curve there. Now, if Jeff Blashill is the hire, he can simply focus on the hockey part of the job, not have to learn the day-to-day, not have to learn the adjustments of going from assistant to head. He's done it before. He's got it down, and now he can just focus on growing the team, making the young players better, finding the right system for the players he's got. I think just taking that whole learning curve away is smart, unless it was for David Carl. Like, to me, David Carl was the one guy I think I'd be willing to sit and let learn on the job and coach at the same time. I'm kind of glad that if he's the hire, they're going with someone with experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Again, like I'm going to need to see it. I think I'm working from behind here with this hire, because it just feels like a guy right out of the middle, and it doesn't feel like it's someone that, David Carl would have been the excitement, the hot coach at the time, whatever it is. I think that's a very valid point about taking that learning curve out of it. You get someone who's done it before. You get someone who can come in. Nothing should surprise them. And as Ryan said, theoretically, Blashill would be taking over a Blackhawks team that has more young, developable talent on the roster in the system than Detroit had, that Blashill never had any real time to work with. He only had one season with Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider and everything like that. The guy that you point to that Blashill developed, quote unquote, would be Dylan Larkin as like the key guy. And Dylan Larkin's a great player.
Yes.
But he's not to the level that Connor Bedard should get to. You'd like to see someone like Frank Nazar get to Dylan Larkin's level. That'd be amazing. But not having really anyone else to point to, Anthony Mantha didn't pan out to be anything. He had Tyler Bertuzzi when younger years in his career. Philip Hronek had good seasons in Detroit, but they got rid of him. So really, the developing young guys, there's just not a ton to point to that is successful. So that's something that I, again, like, as I'm saying throughout this whole thing, I am willing to give him the chance to have this roster, have this organization, bring them forward. Very happy to see that happen. I'm just like this. I'm working from behind. It doesn't do anything to excite me.
Especially we're talking a month ago about David Carl as a real possibility, and we knew the Hawks talked to him, and it felt like just based on, like, Saravalli was saying it very definitively on postgame shows that they have identified their guy. Mm-hmm. They want David Carl, and they did. And as Frank Saravalli is the human Kyle Davidson burner account, like, you knew that was coming from the team, and they wanted David Carl badly. David Carl said, I'm going back to college. I'm not ready yet. But I do believe that they see Jeff Blashill, if he's the hire, as it says on the screen, as that bridge guy, because you can only select from what's available right now. And I think this is a guy who is a better coach than Sorensen, a better coach than Richardson. He will come with respect. Who knows who he's going to bring as assistants, and he'll get the Hawks to that next step. I don't think he's their Stanley Cup coach. He might not have to be. Maybe in 3 years, David Carl's ready to come to the NHL now. Maybe he's won another national championship in Denver, and he said, all right, my kids are older. I'm ready. I'm now ready for the challenge. So there you go. The point is, you just can't create candidates out of nothing. And I will say, like, a lot of people saying, if this doesn't work out, then Kyle Davidson's going to get fired. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, because I think Kyle Davidson can go to his leadership and say, look, we did our best to get David Carl. We did our best to get Mike Sullivan. Actually, don't know if they did or not. That deal might have been done the second he walked away from Pittsburgh with the Rangers. And he might be saying to them, as much as we're saying to you, this is a guy who's going to come in, make things better, get us to competence behind the bench, and then we'll evaluate in 2 or 3 years if he is the guy to get us to that next level. And if he's not, we'll go from there. But I can only hire what's available. And I will say, this is a less risky hire for Kyle Davidson than a Jeff Halpern would be, or whatever assistant looking for experience would be. And I want to kind of shake it back to what we were talking about before with the learning experience on the job. That is something we saw firsthand with Luke Richardson, when you had Taylor Hall flat out say, like, I don't like the way things are being handled right now. I don't like the way that, I'm not being coached and then I'm being scratched. I'm not really being told why I'm scratched or why I'm back in the lineup. Like,
right.
Those are the sort of things that first-year coaches have to learn. And Luke Richardson, as soon as that happened, was like, hey, pointing the thumb on me. I need to be better. I need to be more clear about that. Lesson learned. So if you're trying to get a team to respect you and you're trying to get a team that is going to buy in, I think the more you can minimize those sort of mistakes where they frustrate and confuse and aggravate the players, the better off you're going to be as a coach. And I think with 7 years of experience, Jeff Blashill, if he's the hire, is probably, I'm not going to say he's going to be perfect, but has probably treaded through those waters frequently enough to know, okay, you know what? This worked. This didn't. I'm going to change this. Look, I'm not telling anybody to start planning the parade route at all, but I just think it's a perfectly cromulent hire.
I don't know what that word means.
It's a fake word made up on The Simpsons.
Cool.
But you know what it means by how it sounds.
Yeah. It definitely today I feel like a breeze has been taken out of the sails of what could have, what next season could feel like. I think we're coming off of yesterday's show. They got the Centennial going on. Yeah, talked about it yesterday. It was just like next season, the on ice product very likely going to be a lot of the future, a lot of the young guys. What do a lot of the young guys have in their arsenal of skills? Speed, tenacity, high motor team. Like the way Jeff Blashill approaches the game with it feels like this hire. It's low risk. It's play defensively sound to eliminate chances against to potentially then create chances for. That's fine. I'm not against that style of play. I just hope that it can translate to the guys that are going to be on this roster and in this group next year. Talked about Bedard, and one of his comments at the exit interview was, it was nice when the coaching change happened that I wasn't constantly being told about my defense. How will that translate under Jeff Blashill, who clearly has a defense first, even for offensive guys, mentality? How is that going to translate to a guy like Frank Nazar up front, who, again, he's good defensively. He's got PK time, all that. It probably will translate pretty well for him. I just wonder how it's all going to translate. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, and to Kyle Davidson's credit, he should not operate on how fans should feel. this is definitely something that has been, since it's been rumored yesterday, all the way through today, where it now feels like almost inevitable that this is going to be the news that we'll get at some point soon, that Blashill is going to be the head coach. It feels like the reactions range from extremely disappointed to meh, and I think that that's going to be tough to overcome from a fan perspective, but results on the ice is how you overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen uninspiring hires happen before, and if they're decent behind the mic and they have a funny press conference and, you know, people chuckle and he sounds like not an idiot, I think people will come around, especially if the team starts playing better. They'll come around. I've seen some people make the comparison to Joel Quenneville coming from St. Louis to here. He was an assistant in Colorado, won a cup as an assistant, was hired as the hot hire in St. Louis, didn't get it done there. The Hawks hired him as a consultant after a DUI, and then as enough time passed after DUI, they hired him as the head coach after Dennis Savard, and the rest is history. A lot of this is timing, and I just want to go back to what Ryan said, Ryan Hana from the Winged Wheel podcast, who joined us in the first segment. If you missed it, you can go back and check it out later. He said Scotty Bowman in his prime couldn't have done anything with that Red Wings roster. And go back and look at those. They're some hot-ass garbage.
Yeah, and they weren't good teams.
And I would argue that the current Hawks roster, the roster they ended the season with at the end of last year, is probably better than the Red Wings team, than many of the Red Wings team that Jeff Blashill had. So yeah, we'll see. All right, we got to hit the break zone one last time, we promise. Talk to you in a minute and 58 seconds. Hit that like button for us, and we'll be back in a moment.
If you need a new vehicle, why not check out our friends at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake? They're kicking off the summer with a big Memorial Day savings event all month long. You can come in and shop the Memorial Day sales event and drive home with a 0% financing for 60 months on new select Chevy models deal, or you can check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. One of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you'll know you're getting a great deal. And because of Ray's price promise, that lets you shop confidently because it guarantees no add-ons, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks. The price you see and hear is the price you pay. You don't have to worry about price changing, any stressful negotiations, or any tricks. The people at Ray Chevrolet just want to help you get into the right vehicle at the right price. Go see for yourself. Visit our partner at their convenient location on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their Memorial Day sales event going on all month long for 0% financing on new select Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or go to raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
They have, and they're doing a great job.
The best job, I've been told.
A wonderful job. And guess what? We've all been there. Your parlay is one leg away, and then a relief pitcher gives up a walk-off bomb in the ninth. Heartbreak. Sound familiar?
Yes.
The HOF app is built to fix that. Started by two lifelong sports fans who also had to be Ivy League grads. Nerds! HOF makes parlay research smarter, faster, and data-driven. Whether it's MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, or college sports, the app gives you beautiful charts, clean visuals, and real insight. Not hype. They believe anything the books know, you should know too, because parlays don't have to be dumb bets. With HOF, they aren't. With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 five-star reviews, it's safe to say HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. And maybe the best part, once you've built your parlay, you can send it straight to your sportsbook with one click, no manual entry, no wasted time. The HOF app directly syncs automatically with most major sportsbooks like DraftKings and FanDuel. For a limited time, our customers not only get a 7-day free trial, but they also get 50% off their first month when they use the code CHGO at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android, or visit hofbets.com, enter code CHGO, and you're all set. So do that. I want to get a comment in from our buddy Lord Hosa, who was referring to, he said, here it is. He says, I'm aware, but a lot of the talking points that are being said in the chat can be said about all other retreads that would have been just as bad as this potential hire saying Laviolette or Tortorella. See, I don't call Blashill a retread. This is his second job.
Right.
For me to feel like you're feeling, kind of upset, a little bit frustrated, a little bit underwhelmed, if it was Laviolette, somebody like that, then I would have that feeling. We have seen this over and over and over again, and he doesn't win.
Right.
He just is not a Stanley Cup winning coach.
In the modern era.
And I can say Jeff Blashill hasn't proven that either, but when I look at what he did with what he had, I can see reason for optimism on the other side. That was a very hot coach hire when made.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was the dude that everybody wanted.
Yeah, because he was coming up through the Red Wings organization. He had won a Calder Cup with the Grand Rapids Griffins. He had a lot of success with the Grand Rapids Griffins. And at that time, the broad viewpoint of the Red Wings was, yeah, they're the Red Wings. They're a playoff team. He's going to take over a playoff team. Yeah. And as Ryan said, like, if you were really looking at, how things were going with that organization at that time, the players that they were leaning on, he said the cliff was coming, and it arrived. They fell off the cliff, and he was the one that was behind the wheel as they did that. But again, this wasn't him being handed the keys to the 2007 Red Wings and didn't get success. So I understand that. And I'm not going to try and have this whole hour be me upset. That definitely would have happened if it was a Tortorella or a Laviolette or anything like that.
I will say, I would not have liked it, but Torts would have been fun for our perspective and good for business.
Sure.
I would be so honored for him to stare me down and call me a dumbass in the conference room instead of just my colleagues doing that every day.
You could be added to the John Tortorella press conference highlight reel that gets updated every few years on YouTube. So I will say, the last 3 seasons, and Katie, this is the graphic I asked you to create. The last 3 seasons in Tampa Bay, he's been an assistant. He's been in charge of the defense. And statistically, it is markedly improved. He joined the organization 2022-2023 season. You see there on your screen, 3.07 goals allowed per game, 14th in the league, 79.7% on the PK, 15th in the league. Net penalty kill percentage, which factors in shorthanded goals scored versus allowed, 82.4%, 17th in the league. The next season, the PK and the net PK improve, 5th in the league, 6th in the league. The goals against per game got worse, but then this season, you look at the most recent year for the Lightning, 2024-25 season, 2.63 goals against, 4th in the league, 81.6% on the penalty kill, 6th in the league, 86.9% at net penalty kill percentage, 3rd in the league. So, in totality, across his 3 years running the penalty kill, being in charge of the defense with the Lightning, statistically, they improved. I think you can also correlate that with maybe some of the goaltending improving over those seasons. And you look at, it's the Lightning, a much more talented team than any of those Red Wings teams were that he took over. But you look at it and you can say, okay, there's some numbers behind that. That's good. And I put some weight on that. I also put some weight on, in his time with Tampa Bay, a lot of Lightning fans are saying, have him. Good riddance. Take Jeff Blashill away from this team. And that is, again, kind of puts an egg in the basket for me of, like, statistically, this team got better defensively under him. Why is the fan perspective, get this guy out of here?
I mean, in fairness, and sure, is it a red flag? Sure. There's also people that are in our chat every day that blame Derek King for everything wrong with the Blackhawks.
Well, that's decreased over time.
So I'm taking
yes, I understand
taking
that,
fan perspective with a grain of salt, because I'm having, of course, all the Red Wings fans are finding the Jeff Blashill news and laughing at it, yet the Red Wings have been the complete same ass they've been since Jeff Blashill took over, only with better players. You know what I mean? Like, so it's the fan thing is, and look, that's not most of the people in our chat, but there is a decent percentage of people that are like, Derek King is legitimately the problem. Like, okay, like he runs a defense, he runs a penalty kill. Have the defense and penalty kill improved? Yes. Okay. Well, it seems to be, based on the scientific evidence, that he's doing his job and doing it well. I don't think John Cooper is going to keep a guy around who's a boob.
Right.
That guy wants to win.
Right.
He wants to, it's, I don't know. It's where I'm at on this thing. We could say it till we're red in the face or redder in the face, and we already are. Like, it's meh. It is a meh hire, if that's the hire. I get it, but it could have been way worse. Way worse. So much worse. And I know that's not where we wanted to be.
Yeah, I don't want to walk away from this saying it could have been worse.
Yeah, but a month ago we got these high hopes and we're buying the David Carl thing, and now all of a sudden it's Jeff Blashill, and it does feel like a massive letdown.
It does.
But, and that's, when I saw that news come out, my first thought was, oh God, is this even a name we've said in our predictions on who it might be or people they should interview? No, but then I started doing work on it. And the consensus is good coach, not a great coach, will make the team better, probably not a Stanley Cup winning coach. Okay. So give him his 2.4 years. 1.9 years. See what he can do. And if he's not the guy, then you find the guy then. And maybe you just know. Maybe David Carl said, let me go win again. Talk to me when you're a little bit better, when you're a little bit closer.
Do we know the years on the extension that Carl signed?
I thought it was like a 5-year extension, but there's got to be a
we'll see
NHL out on that deal.
We'll see in 2030, David.
Yeah. Now I would imagine that there is an NHL out.
Yeah, I mean,
built into that.
Guys break contract. People break contracts all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it feels like landing in the middle, and that's better than landing at the bottom of the barrel of coaching candidates. Sure. It just feels like, to me, and again, this is initial reactions to just the report that he's been interviewed, but then it's over the past 24 hours, all the tea leaves that have been put out there. Like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Butcher Gross putting it out there. Mark Lazarus and Scott Powers, they put out there what they're hearing about this, and they went in it deep on The Athletic about Jeff Blashill, Pierre LeBrun, Saravalli, and then what we kind of talked about before, and brought it up again with Luke Richardson and the timeline of the hire. Back in June of 2022, he was the first name that came out as like, we know Luke Richardson interviewed for this job. Less than a week later, Luke Richardson is the head coach. And, if that head coaching search was quiet. This one has been quiet from the Blackhawks since. So piecing all of that together, it doesn't feel like, and I know on 32 Thoughts today, Elliot Friedman threw out the name Adam Nightingale as someone that may have also interviewed with the Blackhawks, also said to have interviewed with Seattle, same as Blashill. He was an assistant under Blashill for a season in Detroit, or for a few seasons in Detroit before leaving and eventually getting the Michigan State job. So if Nightingale had been interviewed, maybe it was background on Blashill. Tony Granato and Chris Chelios were also on Blashill's coaching staffs in Detroit in those years. Those are two people that are literally part of the Blackhawks organization now in different ways. I'm sure Kyle Davidson has talked to those guys about like, hey, coaching with him, how was it? Anything like that. So it just feels like we can say with 99.9% certainty, Blashill's going to be the head coach. And it just, the initial reaction just for me just comes across as like, all right, cool.
Yep. I get it.
This search feels like it's done, and it lands with a with a big shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
So now we'll move into. Sorry to keep cutting you off.
No, you're right.
We'll move into the next phase of the offseason. Being able to move beyond the coaching search will be nice. I'll say that.
Yeah.
For that to be done and just kind of checked off, that'll be nice. To have that piece of business, dust off your hands. But it just doesn't feel like it lands with a lot of excitement.
All right, we got a lot to get to in a few minutes to do it. I want to share some quotes from Steve Yzerman. These were made after he did not renew the deal for Jeff Blashill in Detroit. Yzerman says, quote, ultimately to take that decision, I felt our team fundamentally that we kind of, I don't even know if plateaued is the right word, but we had gotten to a point where fundamentally, with and without the puck, we had regressed. We're at a point now where I feel like, okay, I've got to see if bringing in a new coach and coaching staff can make a difference to get us back and get us going in the right direction. Has it? I don't know. He continues, quote, Jeff Blashill is a good hockey coach. He ran a really good program. I can certainly attest to our program for the last 3 years because it's been dictated by me. Under the circumstances where I'm trying to rebuild this team, I say this sincerely, Jeff did an outstanding job leading this team, the organization, in a very, very difficult circumstance. Pardon the expression, but he ran a good program. This wasn't a complete poop show.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This wasn't a complete poop show.
Someone in the chat said I would have rather seen...
From the Yzer plan.
Yes. Someone said I would have rather seen them hire Trent Yawney over Jeff Blashill because Jeff Blashill was a failure in Detroit. That's true. There it is right there. Michael Scott, Stunner Mifflin, Race for the Cure. He says if they settle for someone like Blashill, why wouldn't they just go with someone like Yawney, like Jay suggested last week? I very much prefer Yawney over Blashill, who seriously failed in Detroit. Once again, Jeff Blashill's winning percentage in Detroit, .447. Trent Yawney in Chicago, .393.
Something on
Jeff
fire.
Blashill is younger. He has been under John Cooper. That is fire.
There's a blowtorch going on behind
fire. Over Mario's left shoulder. He is really pissed about this potential hire. Overtime.
What is
Let's
this?
go.
I've never seen this before.
I like that.
It's
Ooh.
when we run out of fast channel time. So
Oh, well, there we are. We're out of fast channel time, but we're still here.
Sorry,
Let's get
Fast
these
Channel.
super chats and then start our weekend.
Oh.
DJ Schnell, who threw us a super chat earlier, says, build your all-time Hawks starting six to go undefeated and win a cup. Sounds great for Mailbag Monday.
DJ,
which we're
tune
doing.
in on Monday.
Yes. Well, can we save that for Monday's show, please?
Let's pin that one.
Windy City Hockey, $5 says, Blashill was a goalie in college. Hope it wouldn't affect Jimmy Waite if Blashill was actually hired. I can't imagine it would.
I think Jimmy Waite was a much better goaltender than Jeff Blashill was. So it's
he's not going to, you don't fire a defensive coordinator if you're a defensive head coach in the NFL either. So, no, I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah. $10 from Giggities says, Q once upon a time, Quinville, was viewed as an uninspiring hire because his Blues teams never got it done. But not comparing Blashill to Q, just the process of it. I'm not high on him, but let's give him a fair shake. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
And Daedric Lord 26 for $7 says, once again, voting Gardner McDougall as head coach. Moncton has lost 2 games all playoffs.
Coach Flanders. Yeah. Yeah. Someone else had reached out to me, said that they live in the Maritimes of Canada and that Gardner McDougall is just should be getting more NHL attention. Doesn't seem like it's going to matter for the Hawks because it seems like maybe as soon as Monday, I think we'll get the official Blashill news. That'd be my guess. But we'll see. We have so much time to dig into this now. We don't have to wrap up all the Blashill conversations now. But one thing that will be very interesting regarding this, if he is the hire, is who are his assistants, who's on staff. I mean, Andrew Sorensen is sticking with the organization. I wonder if he sticks as an assistant, if he goes back and coaches the Ice Hogs. Kevin Dean is currently with Team USA at the World Championships. I think he's had a positive influence on the defensive group in Chicago. Alex Vlasic has spoken highly of him. I wonder if he would stick around. We'll have to see how that all pans out. Hey, maybe Jeff Halpern does come to Chicago as an assistant with Blashill as they've been together in Tampa for a few seasons now. Who knows? But that's going to be part of it too. Maybe there's, an assistant hire that, gives us a little extra juice. Maybe it's someone that's been a head coach before that comes along. Who knows? But there's a lot to still see pan out, and we still have to get the official word that it is Blashill.
We will see. I wonder if the more smoke there is around it, if they just get it over with. Doubtful they'll do it today or on a weekend. But yeah, I think
if they do,
I think Monday or Tuesday could be a possibility here.
We will do an emergency pod.
As we always do.
100%. And it looks like maybe Tuesday we might have a guest that has some insight on the coaching carousel at large.
Interesting.
So, we'll announce that on Monday if we do get that.
All right. We'll talk to you then. 2:00 Monday. By the way, if you've not done so already, check out yesterday's interview with Duncan Keith. And tomorrow, our mini pod focuses on James Higgins. So check that out as well. That drops around 10 a.m. Talk to you Monday at 2 on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.